As of late, Joe Rogan's been doing a lot of podcasts with the focus of bashing flat earthers. He even has a shirt here, as you see, Round Earth Shill, and he's not even joking. This is very literal. Take a look at this shirt. Give me a break with the little smiley face and the dollar signs. He's getting paid very well for what he's doing. He's talking to this one geek here at Lawrence Cross, as I've shown before, another flat earth denier. One thing I find interesting about Joe Rogan, he had this TV show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything, and of course, the one-eyed symbolism. He questions everything, of course, but he doesn't question the ball earth. He's, again, his shirt says it all. Let's take a listen to what he says here. I'm going to break it all down. One thing I find interesting about Joe Rogan, he just yaps a lot, but he doesn't show any type of, graphs or demonstrations of why he believes what he believes. He just says, well, they can't be lying. All the photos of so-called photos from NASA from space can't be fake. Well, just because he says that, it must be true. Give me a break. Let's take a listen to what he says here, and I'll break it all down.
Before the podcast started, the Japanese weather satellite that takes an image, a full image of the Earth. Mm-hmm. What is the name of that satellite again, Jamie? It takes a full image of the Earth from 22,000 miles away. People keep saying in this flat Earth theory thing that there's no images of the Earth in full, that they're all composites. That's not true.
It's not true.
There are images of the Earth that are taken every 10 minutes by this one satellite, and they're high resolution. You can access them online anytime you want.
The so-called satellite that Joe Rogan's referring to, the Japanese satellite, which does not exist, is the Himawari 8. We'll take a look at this footage, and I'm going to break it down. Now, this is the official website from Japan of the Himawari 8. As you can see, it says real time. Let's take a look here as I zoom in. Okay, you can move this thing around. I mean, give me a break. Real time garbage. Let's take a look here. Okay, again, 22,000 miles away. And I read all the details about it. Supposedly, this satellite cost Japan $700 million. And let's take a look at this. Nothing but animation. Nothing more than garbage, basically. I mean, this is a complete joke. I'm going to zoom in more. Okay, one thing you'll never see is fine detail. No matter how much I zoom in, you're not going to see any detail of any cargo ships or any planes or any of that sort. And again, this is a very important point I want to make. Supposedly, only 22,000 miles away. When I say only, so I'm going to show some footage of the moon from Earth, and we'll have a comparison of the details from 22,000 miles from this so-called satellite compared to Earth, 238,000 miles away with the moon, and we can see great detail, unlike this. It doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. Everybody tries to make this more complex than it needs to be. It's very simple. And again, you're not going to see any type of detail. You don't see any type of lights. You don't see anything. Just nothing more than a composite. I'm going to get a real close-up here. And again, with the technology of today, from these satellites, even ISS, we should be able to see cargo ships, sailing supposedly towards the bottom of the so-called ball Earth, and we don't get any of that. Why not? Of course, these are just nothing more than composites. Nothing real about it. Now let's take a look at this footage. Now using the Nikon P900 digital camera, zooming in on the moon during the daytime, just take a look at the fine detail. Again, 238,000 miles away with a $500 digital camera, doing what the Himawari 8 can't do, and that's get an amazing zoom in. Obviously, the moon is not 238,000 miles away. It's within Earth's atmosphere. Again, look at that fine detail. Doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. But you can see this fine detail. 238,000 miles away compared to Himawari 8 being 22,000 miles away. You can't get this great detail. And this looks real because it is real. And everything from Himawari 8 looks like a cartoon, but that's all it is. Simple as that. Now let's take a look here. Again, from a perspective from so-called outer space. And again, I want to see some footage, some real footage of a cargo ship. Why can't they zoom in? And why can't we see a cargo ship from, say, ISS as it's cruising around the so-called ball Earth. You're never going to get that. And again, ISS is only 220 miles up, supposedly 220 miles up in space, with ISS supposedly costing $100 billion. You cannot get that fine detail. What a complete joke. And again, I want to show these photos of the moon during the day. How is it possible that the moon is 238,000 miles away and you can see the moon during the daytime? Obviously, the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. Within Earth's atmosphere, it's clear as day. Also, I want to show this footage that I shown before with the sun and the moon above the California sky at approximately 3 o'clock during the day. As I pan over, there's your moon. Again, what is the other side of the so-called ball Earth getting? Obviously, we live on a flat Earth. For those that are awake and understand that people like Joe Rogan, just like his shirt says, nothing but a round Earth shill, and the dollar signs says a lot. What people do for money. Joe Rogan wouldn't have a spot all over TV with his TV shows, being involved with UFC and his former shows such as Fear Factor, and of course, like I said, Joe Rogan questions everything except the ball Earth. Now let's continue on with Joe Rogan and Lawrence Cross.
Or have they never? Well, how does someone fly from Japan to the United States? They don't.
Very simple. I'm going to show right here. As you see on the flat Earth model, you see Japan approximately right here. You just fly straight. That's why these planes, they refuel in Alaska. It makes perfect sense. Just a straight line. You don't go around a so-called ball Earth, go upside down when you fly. You just travel from point A to point B. For example, Santiago, Chile to Sydney, Australia. Okay? It's that simple. From, say, Santiago, Chile, you go across to Johannesburg, South Africa. No shortcuts, but these are the routes you take. At no time when you're flying in a plane do you go upside down. You're just flying across the plane of the Earth. That's why they're called airplanes. You're flying over a plane. Just like when you go from Johannesburg, South Africa to, say, Sydney, you don't take this route. You go straight over the Middle East. You refuel, say, in Dubai and continue on. It's that simple. Now let's continue on with these two geeks.
Here's another one. Have they ever thought of time zones? Why are there time zones if the Earth is flat? Why are there time zones? The only reason they should go from New York to LA and see, you know what? The time is different.
Leprechauns.
Do they think well, no, but they probably think it's a human invention.
Yeah,
but
probably.
The sun is still shining in LA when it's gone down in New York, and they can call their friends and check.
Oh, yeah.
And if the Earth was flat, that wouldn't be the case.
Very, very easy to explain. And here's the map of the time zones. It's all going to make sense. I find it very interesting with the West Coast time. And you see how, basically, how it's curved on the map itself. It's going to make a lot of sense once you look at this demonstration video by Rob Skiba. Now, again, this is just a rough model of how the sun is much closer to us than we're told. Everything's an opposite of this world. Basically, if they tell us the sun's 93 million miles away, you know it's a lot closer, okay? That's why when you look at the sun, say at noon or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you can't look at the sun directly with your eyes, but at sunset, you don't have a problem because the sun is circling above us. Just as you see here with the sun at sunset. Now let's take a look at this model once again. Play it in full rotation above the flat Earth. Again, this makes much more sense than the so-called sun being 93 million miles away and perfectly working like a clock, which I'll get into at the very end of this video. And also, as the sun and moon rotate over the flat Earth, they both shift in and out above the flat Earth. This is another reason why they have daylight time savings as well, to compensate for the shift of the sun and the moon to create the seasons.
Right.
Now, something else I want to show here as well, very important aspect when it comes to this model I showed earlier. People say, well, with the sun, wouldn't it illuminate the whole flat Earth? Well, this video, as I demonstrated before, it's going to show clearly how you can have daylight and night at the same time. This is a cruise ship at sea during an Alaskan cruise. Take a look at this footage.
You probably wouldn't believe this if we didn't show you. Here's on our balcony. It's about 10 o'clock at night. It's almost dark. It's amazing. You can see the moon shining and reflecting brilliantly on the water. But then as you pan to the left, it's actually still daylight over here. and the sunset. Look at that beauty.
This can happen
And it
on
won't
a
ever
ball earth.
completely settle over there. It will stay light actually the whole night. But over here, the moon rising out of there.
And also, too, obviously, the moon gives off its own light, like the Bible states. It's its own light. Clearly, you can see the reflection off the water, not a reflection off the sun, like science says. Science is nothing more than truth mixed with lies. Now, one thing I want to get into as well, there's been a lot of talk about the Chicago skyline. And these buildings should not be visible whatsoever. Okay? Over at 60 miles, approximately 60 miles, I should say, across Lake Michigan. Another look. Okay? You see the water. People say, oh, this proves that we live in a ball. No. You see the top of the buildings. They're still pointing straight up. They're not curving. Okay? This is what you would get. You would get so-called curvature of the ball earth, and you don't get that. They're pointing straight up. Okay? And this is due to perspective. Just like looking at these telephone poles, they're all equal height, but due to perspective, the way the human eye works, it looks like the legs are missing. Again, it's all about the vanishing point and perspective. This is just a model. Here is a real look at these telephone poles. Exactly the same thing you see here. People can't get past the lie systems. Too much ego, too much pride to admit they've been fooled. That's what it all comes down to. So, getting back to Joe Rogan, and he's telling you the absolute truth when he says he's a round earth shill. This is his job, and he's putting it right in your face.
I'm tired of listening to you talking around, twisting around to make me think you're straight down the line. How you doing me is talk. How you doing me is talk.
When you wear a wristwatch, you are wearing the whole entire concept of the world you live in. Again, how the sun moves faster than the moon and it circles above. That's simple. And I find it very interesting looking at Admiral Byrd going back in time. And you see the whole entire concept of the flat earth behind him. And what do you see here in the center? Okay, take a look here. It's basically exactly how the arms work on a clock. Understand the whole entire concept as well. When it comes to the magnetic north, this is what controls how the sun and the moon circle above the flat earth. Okay, just like how on a wristwatch or a clock, how the center basically dictates how the arms move on a clock.